Well, we hope and pray your day has been off to a good start so far. Eastern Time, noon, Pacific Time, 9 a.m., and, well, you know what time it is wherever in the world you're listening right now, and we do have listeners from all over the world, especially on the EWTN YouTube channel, and also on app, the smartphone app, and EWTN.com, and Sirius XM 130, and iHeart. Jerry Usher, Debbie Georgianni, it's Take Two. Debbie, an interesting topic today, one that we hope especially guys will call in, but not just guys. We want takes from a lot of people today.
Oh, we sure do. I mean, counselors, anybody that's worked in this area, shed some light on it. Teach us about a male midlife crisis. And that's what we're talking about today on Take Two. We're going to really take it on and see what we uncover and what we learn and how we grow from it. Jerry, I just wanted to start off by saying that I've read a ton of research on this. Actually, at my age, I actually went through the female change of life because at my age. And so because of that, I also read about the male transformation or changes in life. And it's very interesting what you can learn from it. I mean, there's so many positives. We hear about the negatives of male midlife crisis, but there's so many positives. And it's really important that we address that. So we want to hear from you. Tell us your experience, what you know about male midlife crisis. Maybe you only know what you see on TV, but we want to hear from you. 1-800-585-9396.
Yeah, and that's why we said, you gentlemen especially, I did a little bit of research on this myself before the show. It's often said that if there is such thing as a midlife crisis, and I think human history has borne out the fact that males do kind of pass through something, it's usually between the ages of 35 and 50. My guess would be probably closer on the 50 end of things. But what is it? What is a male midlife crisis? And most of the research that I did, it said, it's like when, your physical or mental abilities, you don't lose them, but they start to diminish. You can't be at the gym every day with the guys playing basketball anymore because your body just won't take it. Or, you look back on your life and maybe it's subconscious. But Debbie, I think we all have this tendency to kind of look at our lives and go, have I really done anything worthwhile? Have I followed the Lord in my life? Have I been, the husband I should have been, the father? Professionally, have I done what I should have done? Vocationally, these kinds of things. So, gentlemen, if you're in that right now, or if you've gone through it, share your experience, because this is, again, it's a mentoring opportunity here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
It sure is. It's peer driven, and that means you. So you got to call in and share your takes on things. And Jerry, just like from a general standpoint, when you look at the dictionary about midlife crisis, it just talks about it has to do with finding a person's identity, looking at their identity, what is their identity, and also self-confidence. And so that plays a factor too, the emotional side of a midlife crisis. But I would also like to say too, Jerry, that I think we should introduce this idea if you're looking at self-confidence and your identity and looking back and saying, hey, I never made it to the NBA to be a professional basketball player, or I never accomplished those childhood dreams that I had when I was 12 and 18 years old. But I think it's interesting. There's a book, I'm writing a book right now, Jerry, and one of the chapters I talk about the quote about Mark Twain, when Mark Twain said there's the two most important days in your life. And most people say, the day you were born and the day you die, but it really isn't. The two most important days of your life, according to Mark Twain, is, the day you were born and the day you find out what your purpose is in life. And it's very interesting. And so I would love to introduce that as well. That is a midlife crisis where, people are really reflecting on, am I living out my purpose? Am I accomplishing my purpose? Because you're getting to that point where you're almost kind of getting on to borrowed time. You don't know if and when, the Lord's going to take you home. And so it's an interesting thing. So share with us. We'd love to hear somebody that's lived through a midlife crisis. And maybe you could tell us what the feelings were along the way. 1-800-585-9396.
Yeah, or ladies as well. Maybe your husband has gone through something like this. We'd love to hear how you were there to support him, maybe. Or perhaps it created some challenges in the relationship. But I think it's a very important topic because if nature takes its course, barring anything, an illness, a disease, an accident, taking a guy, earlier, say prematurely, as we would say, Debbie, then, we're all going to pass through this. And, I've shared on this show a few times, my own experience, and it was in 2011, where I went through a real period of darkness and depression. And I really, really looked to the future and thought, you know what, there's just nothing there, And I don't know. I mean, I think there were a lot of factors, but one of them may be, Debbie, get this, I turned 50 that year.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
I've reflected on this, and for a couple years leading up to that, as you know, because we've known each other for several years, I had just nagging, chronic knee problems, foot problems. I would be on crutches for weeks at a time, and doctors trying to figure things out. And I had, an elbow problem, and I'd get cortisone injections, and it wouldn't help, and I couldn't lift weights anymore, and I couldn't play basketball anymore. And so, I look back a little bit and chuckle right now, but guys, are you there? Are you going through this where, it's just this period in your life where, you're just not as vibrant as you were. Maybe you feel like you have unfulfilled dreams. Share this, because if you've navigated those waters, and maybe you've come through the other side, and you've just got this zeal for life right now, which I do, Debbie. I look, and you said, I don't know, I may have a week to live, I may have an hour, but if nature takes its course, I've got maybe 20 years. It's not a lot of time.
No, it's not. It's going to go
so
fast.
I look at this and I just say, I'm going to live every day, just in the joy and the presence of the Lord. So I want to hear from you guys about this.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you if you thought that, the period of time where you felt that, real darkness in your journey, could it have been attributed to a midlife, a little bit of a crisis? So that's interesting. So you could actually talk from experience on that. I think that is fascinating. Well, calls are coming in. That's a good sign. But guess what? There's room for you. And so we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. So start dialing in now. You have a few minutes. You can talk to Matt Gabinski. He's our great call screener. He'll get you on. You can listen. So you're not going to miss any part of the program. But dial in right now. 1-800-585-9396. We're going to take that break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about male midlife crisis. Have you been through it? Are you approaching it? Do you have a spouse or a loved one that's gone through it? We want to hear from you, but stay with us. We'll be right back.
I've heard the complaint many times that people in ministry should stop talking so much about chastity and just focus on more pressing social justice issues. But anyone who's worked with young people knows better than to make that false distinction. Well-documented studies show that the younger a teenage girl gives up her virginity, the more likely she is to live below the poverty line. Teenage girls who are promiscuous are 6 times more likely to attempt suicide, and boys are 2 times more likely to suffer from depression. 25% of college students graduate with an STD. People who wait until marriage almost double their chance of a happy marriage. And according to a study of 14,000 teens, those who were abstinent in high school were 60% less likely to be expelled, 50% less likely to drop out, and nearly twice as likely to graduate from college. We can't pretend to care about things like justice and poverty if we don't care about the purity of our young people. This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck of EWTN's Bookmark. I'm excited to talk about a new book that's available to be ordered today. It's Mother Angelica's new book, Praying with Mother Angelica. Meditations on the Rosary, the Way of the Cross, and other prayers. Mother Angelica's meditations combine the insights of a spiritual master with the warmth of a loving mother. Her short but powerful reflections will lift your soul to heaven and lead you into a thoughtful and penetrating reflection on the love of God and the life of Our Lady. This beautifully bound collection of Mother's original writings from the 1970s is a treasure that will help you integrate the spiritual wisdom of Mother Angelica and the traditional prayers and devotions of the Church into your daily life of prayer. Pre-order it today. Item number is 80008. Through the EWTN Religious Catalog. Go to EWTNRC.com or call and ask for Praying with Mother Angelica, Meditations on the Rosary, the Way of the Cross, and the other prayers. You won't be sorry.
Hi, this is Barbara McWiggin.
This is Bishop Joseph Bambera of the Diocese of Scranton.
I'm Brian Patrick, EWTN News Nightly Anchor, and you're listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Take two with Jerry and Debbie. All right, Lewis, we're going to go to you in just a moment. Debbie, you had another quick insight you wanted to share before we get to the phone calls. By the way, the number is 1-800-585-9396. 800-585-9396. Our topic today, male midlife crisis. Now, if you're a woman, you might be thinking, okay, I sit this one out. But if you're a woman, you're probably married or a mother or a daughter. So if you've got any kind of experience, seeing someone, helping someone, maybe watching someone struggle, go through this, maybe emerge, out the other side as maybe kind of a new man, you can weigh in on this as well. But guys, come on. I mean, this is your opportunity to talk man to man with each other about what I think is a very important topic. Anyway,
That's
Deb.
right. Absolutely. So please call in. Don't be shy. Share with us because what you have to say is very important to others. 1-800-585-9396. I just wanted to revisit this real quickly, Jerry, before we go to Lewis. When I was doing the research, and keep in mind, dear listeners, we all transition through life. Think about it. As a child, you're transitioning into adolescence, and then you're going into adulthood, and then you're moving into a mature self, a version of yourself. And there's nothing wrong with transitions and changes. When I was going through my female change of life, it was hard. It was tough. I mean, psychologically, physically, it was tough, Jerry. It was really a battle every day. But you know what? It was very freeing. I learned a lot about myself. And I think that's important. And that's what I wanted to touch on with the research. With male midlife crisis, it talks about that it can be a time of really deep depression. But here's the great news. It can be a time of tremendous growth. And when you capitalize on the growth portion of it, and you alluded to it, Jerry, when you were talking about your own personal circumstance, look at the growth that has come out of your situation, Jerry, and that's huge. So let's talk about that. Let's really focus on that because that's what God wants us to do. God wants us to grow, and ultimately He wants us to grow closer to Him. So that's what we want to hear from today. Tell us how we can really transition this and make it a positive thing. Okay, I had to say that. Now we can go to Lewis.
All right, Lewis is in, it looks like, I'm not going to pronounce it right, Del Plaine, Virginia. Lewis, listening on the EWTN app. Was I even close on the city, Lewis?
Yeah, that was pretty good, Jerry. It's like almost right on the money. Delaplane, Virginia.
Delaplane. Great. Good to have you with us. What's your take?
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for the work you guys do. EWTN has really blessed my life, and appreciate everything you guys do at your end. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But Debbie, you just alluded to your midlife crisis too, and that is, I didn't think about that till you just said it, but that is one of the things that just makes the male midlife thing just that much harder, is because often you're going through it almost simultaneously with your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it requires a little extra grace and mercy, and really trying to see the other person's point of view. But I hope I can help somebody with my little story. But, I'm kind of on the tail end of it, I think. I'm 56 years old. I just turned 56. I felt like I was losing my mind
Mm-hmm.
during the whole
Me
process.
too. Go ahead.
It was like a 5-year process for me. I mean, I don't know what it is for other guys, but I'm telling you, you just feel like, easy things are harder for you, things that were just simple. You find yourself missing certain things at work that are just basic. I mean, I've been doing the same thing for 30 years in my career, and it's like, man, I'm making simple mistakes that are just ridiculous. That's not me. Who is this person? Things like that. And the cool thing about it is I feel like it does kind of make you bottom out a little bit, at least for me. And it made me kind of face some things about my past in terms of my childhood, and maybe some things that I'd stuffed and buried like guys do, and had to kind of resolve those, and it brought me a lot of peace. So it did kind of make me bottom out. And the big thing is, and I told your screener this, it brought me back to the church in a big way. And I think that's the upside, because you talked about growth, Sherry, I think earlier, and I think that's that's the great thing about it. It does make you grow. It hurts to grow, like building muscle. You're tearing tissue, but you're building muscle. But it does help you grow. So I think that's really the upside.
Well, I'll tell you, Alan, you have just nailed so many great points here. I just want to touch upon, you mentioned this idea of bottoming out. And, all of my life, I thought I was happy. I mean, I was on top of the world, working in a career that I love. I mean, I actually believe that I was created to be in media. I mean, that's how much I love and I've been in secular radio and so forth and just done so many great things. But, I thought I was happy and all of this stuff, but there was just, so many unresolved issues and things. And then I reached that age of about 50 and I really did. I bottomed out, I began to wonder, is there anything ahead for me at all? And I don't know about you, Alan, but I have come out of that. I have a happiness that I believe is authentic now, and it's rooted in my identity as a son of God. And I've learned to know who he is, know who I am in light of his fatherhood. I've received his blessing. I realize I'm still just very, very sinful, but I have a joy and a peace now. And so I don't know if that is anything like, what you experienced or how you've kind of come through that.
Yeah, that's really a great thing. Actually, I'm Lewis. I think Alan's probably your next caller.
Yeah,
Alan
sorry
is
the next
that.
one.
Yeah, Alan's coming up after Allison.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's and one of the neat things too is back to the spiritual journey. It brought one of the things that brought me back to one of the things I noticed in our culture was men just aren't stepping up the way they used to. And there's a great thing, great ministry, Campus Crusade for Christ down in Arkansas, in Little Rock. It's not Catholic, but they've got some really good stuff. And, one of the things they're doing is a big stepping up ministry. And I thought, well, you know what? We already sort of have that with the Knights of Columbus in the Catholic Church. So I joined the Knights of Columbus and back in the fall, and I've already, done the third degree. And, I'm getting more and more involved. And I would say for men, the Catholic Church, we have so many great things just built in that we don't really that we take for granted. We don't take advantage of.
Right.
And things that the secular world tries to kind of recreate and repackage, they're already there, like confession and reconciliation. All that stuff is already there in the Catholic Church. Just take advantage of it. So I would, kind of encourage guys, just take advantage. Look at what's there. Don't take it for granted. We're all going through the same stuff. So there you go.
Absolutely. Lewis, before we let you go for the day, I just wanted one more comment. I want to hear your final thoughts on it. But, one of the things when a female is going through their change of life or a male is going through it, we're dealing with our humanity. We're dealing with our mortality. We're really focusing in on who we are as a person that Christ has, that God has created. The interesting thing when I was doing the research, it talks about how we're kind of on treadmills when we are achieving. So when you were going for your career and you were providing for your family and you were looking or wanting to settle down and get married and you wanted to find a wife, you're achieving, you're conquering, you're moving along and kind of checking off every list. Okay, I got this, I got my career, I've got my wife, my kids are on the way, my grandkids may be coming, whatever. Same with a woman. A woman, maybe her career in the home or outside of the home or with the children, raising children. And then we come to that point in life where it's just us, just our single person in front of God.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And honestly, and you have to be able to. So you have to know that person. That your own I guess journey with as far as your own faith journey goes, and be there. You also have to pray that your spouse gets there too, and make sure you're doing the right things to be the person you need to be, at least as a guy, and I'm sure as a woman too, to help that person and not overreact so much anymore. Things like that. You made a great point about things undone. You as in your midlife, you just start thinking, oh man, I should be further along. I should at least be a vice president by now, my career or whatever.
Right.
And I'm worked for a major corporation, and maybe that wasn't such a realistic goal at this point. Maybe it will be down the road. If I can sustain everything I'm doing. So you start to have peace with, what, maybe I haven't done this thing for my child and hasn't gotten to this point yet, or I feel like I should have done more in this regard. But it does bring you to peace. And I discovered something with regard to spouses, like you really need to like each other.
Yeah.
Because honestly, when all of a sudden the kids don't need you anymore as much. And our lives revolve. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but my life revolved, both of our lives, my wife and I, revolved around our children. It was just what kept us going. It was an adrenaline rush. And all of a sudden that's gone. I mean, in fact, they don't, not only do they not really need you so much, it's like sometimes they really don't want to be around you as much.
Yeah, well, they're exercising their independence. Sure.
Yeah. So one thing I discovered is like you really have to like your spouse and what brought you together in the first place. So, fortunately, my wife and I, we kind of met in a long-distance relationship, and, we kind of got to know each other over the phone more than, it wasn't just all the surface stuff. So I think we really got to know each other from a real deep level from the beginning. So now we're discovering those things again that we really liked about each other. We put wreaths down at the Arlington National Cemetery. Delaplane is a veteran community of Washington, D.C., and you always get the opportunity at Christmas time to put wreaths down at the cemetery. So we volunteered, and it was really a neat thing to do just really more. I think it helped us more than anybody, but it was just great synergistic opportunity for us to be involved with. But literally, my wife and I had the best day together.
Wow.
And I'll be honest with you, I had to work really hard at it. Because, I'm saying the Lord's Prayer in my head the whole time because I just really want to be like, first of all, respectful of what we're doing with the ceremony, but also just be present for her.
Right.
And not be so much about myself. And we ended up having an incredible day, like probably one of the best days of our marriage.
Beautiful. And you can keep doing that, Louis. That's what's so great about it. See, your take today, Louis, has helped so many because you nailed it on so many points. You're saying about we're not alone. We're all going through the same thing. This is what we get to learn and how we grow. And so I think you really, just surmised everything we were trying to communicate with this topic. So thank you so very, very much. We've got to go to a hard break in just a few seconds, but we want to wish you a beautiful and blessed day and have many, many, many more days like that with your wife. I think that's awesome. You're a great testament.
Well, thank you for all
Louis.
you do.
Absolutely. Thank you for the call. All right, Allison and Alan and the others on the line. We have a line open now. The number is toll-free. It's 1-800-585-9396 to be on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. As Debbie always likes to remind you, you won't miss a thing. When you're on hold, it'll be like you're listening to your radio because you can hear the program and the callers that go on ahead of you. So if you're on the line, be patient. Debbie said we've got this hard break coming up now in just about 2 minutes, so we don't want to start a call and have to jump in and be rude and interrupt anybody. So we'll just get to the other calls on the other side of the break. But again, Debbie, just to set up for those who just tuned in and are wondering, okay, what's this conversation about today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie? Let's kind of reset it for our listeners.
Right. We're talking about midlife crisis, male midlife crisis, and we're talking about if you've experienced it, what you know about it. Maybe you're just only hear the stereotypes about it. I mean, we've all heard the Steve McQueen stories where, going through a midlife crisis, you buy the convertible, you leave
run
your job.
Off with a girl 30 years younger than you.
Exactly. And we've heard that. And honestly,
stereotype. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. It's a stereotype, but it could happen. It could happen. But we want to talk about it from a Catholic Christian perspective and how we can really, like Louis, I think, did it so well. And what a gifted speaker he is. And he nailed it when he said, it is a growth period. It's a chance for you to really look, at yourself. But I keep going back to this, Jerry. It's about circling back to God. It always comes back to God. It always comes back to our relationship with God and what we are doing to grow closer to God. And I think that if we can kind of understand that, the things we go through in life can be that much more enjoyable. We can learn from it, and ultimately we'll know we're getting closer to our divine creator, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think that the whole God element in this really is sometimes it's just being broken of our self-reliance. And that, to me, as I've said, is, I think, a big part of what guys and women go through. Our topic today is the male midlife crisis, where, I knew a gentleman and his wife. They were probably in their 70s, and one of them, he had been like a general in the army or something, always, active and kind of, in command and in control of himself and all. And I think he had to have back surgery, lost a lot of his freedoms, and he was actually dead within about a year. And then without her husband, she passed away, shortly after that. So this whole thing about losing our, physical abilities, our mental abilities, passing through this phase where we go, I'm not everything there is in the world, but God is in control. and surrendering to Him. More of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on male midlife crisis coming up.
Get an insider's look at the latest information from EWTN. Sign up for Wings, EWTN's weekly email newsletter. Get the latest information about live events, special features, and guests. Connect with EWTN on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Just go to EWTN.com and click on the Wings link to sign up. Don't miss a minute of all that's happening at EWTN. Get your wings today.
From the archives, this is the wisdom of Mother Angelica.
Do not let your heart be troubled. Is your heart troubled? Well, what about? Well, I have my children are not in the church. We've had tragedy after tragedy in our family. This one is a born loser, never been successful in his life. This one has terrible pain. All that. So who knows Jesus? And yet our dear Lord looks at us with great love as only a friend can, a real friend, and say, don't let your hearts be troubled. And I want you to think of that. He's saying, don't let it. Now, that means you can do something about it, doesn't it, huh? He doesn't say, I'm going to help you not to let your hearts be troubled. No, he said, you don't let it trouble you.
For more about Mother Angelica, visit EWTNRC.com.
With me is Dr. Ray Garendi, proud 9-time winner of the Catholic Media's Humility Award, who suffered a humiliating defeat this year at the hands of Al Cresta. Dr. Ray, do you have a strategy to reassert your humility?
I'm gathering listener support through this petition.
There are only 4 names here.
I've only been collecting for a month.
And the signatures are all yours.
I'm priming the pump.
Well, if you'd like to add your name to Dr. Ray's petition, tune in to The Doctor Is In Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
I think I can get Cresta's wife to sign next.
Welcome back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network, and we're so glad you joined us today. We're having a very lively and vibrant discussion on male midlife crisis. So it's exciting. I know so many of you are probably not calling in because you're listening intently to this discussion, but we want you to call in. You still have time. So if the Holy Spirit is prompting you and you have something that you want to share with the rest of the world, go for it. 1-800-585-9396. And Jerry, our Patience Award goes to Allison today in Houston, Texas, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Allison. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I would just like to reach out to any other women who might be out there. My husband started taking testosterone about 3 years ago, and it's really changed his personality. I have 2 friends whose husbands took it for a short time, and both of those husbands stopped taking it because their wives told them, you're a different person. I've talked to a wonderful priest. I've been meeting with him for over a year, and he's told me you need to just give it back to him harder than he gives it to you. And I just don't know if that's really the right approach. And I also have to say he's a litigator, so he fights for a living, and I'm no match for him.
Okay.
So I was just wondering if any other wives are dealing with this.
Well, we will soon find out. I'm sure we're going to get comments on Facebook or some emails, Allison, and we can let you know. And you can stay in touch with us at take2@EWTN.com. Take two, the number 2. But Allison, let me just share this with you. We're not medical professionals or anything like that, but I do have just a little bit of knowledge about this area. And you're saying that since he's been taking it, so his personality has been harder to be around. Is that what you're sharing?
And also, he's gotten speeding tickets. He had gone his whole life without speeding.
Right.
And, there are just some real strong signs.
Right.
I think that the industry is pushing it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm waiting for the lawsuits. But they're not there.
Right.
I'm just waiting for the lawsuits.
Well, this is just what I would suggest from one female to another, from one married person to another. This is what I would suggest, just friend to friend. If you feel like his personality is changing and it's not for the better, if he's acting like he's invincible and he can, do stuff, that can be a danger to him. And as his spouse, need to really care for that. So you're seeing something that is detrimental to him and his personality. It's not gonna make him, I guess, closer to God because he's, kind of acting maybe a little bit above the law in certain areas or invincible. What I would suggest to do is go back to that doctor that prescribed it. Go back, if not, find another doctor, even if you have to go to a homeopathic doctor, somebody that's a little bit more into natural herbs and stuff like that can help with, just getting through the change of life. Please go back and revisit that. You don't have to stay on something like that. And if you're seeing that the signs are negative, you're the best judge of that. In defense of the priest that you went to, he's not in your home. Okay, the priest is not in your home. He doesn't, you're the best judge of your husband's change in personality because you live with him. So
he told me not to be a doormat, and he said I've been a doormat.
Okay,
I allowed that to happen.
Right. I understand that. I totally get that. And you know what? That's great advice because you should be able to have that confidence in your own home and not be a doormat. I understand that. But if you've got something like a hormone that's being introduced that is affecting your husband's personality in a negative way, okay, if all of a sudden you started to rise up and, defend yourself, and you said your husband's a litigator, that may not fare so well in your situation. You may end up in a worse situation. What I would say is get back to the root cause. If that testosterone is not being beneficial, I would revisit that and maybe think of a different way so that your husband can come full circle and get back to the man that you know him to be, however his personality was. So I think there's two parts here that I'm playing, and I don't know if that helps you at all. But obviously, for you to call in, you have an instinctual feeling on it, Allison. You got to entertain your instincts. That's the one thing that we as Catholic Christians, we ignore our instincts so many times. And I can't tell you how many times people have gone 5 and 10 years past the circumstance and they'll say, I knew it though. I knew it deep inside, but I didn't do anything about it. So I don't know if that helps you, Allison, but we're going to pray for you and hopes that you can feel comfortable with, your husband's transition and stuff. Does that at all help at all, or what?
Well, it's convincing him, and he has seen some positive results. He works out a whole lot, so he's developing all these muscles, and he's more fit than he's ever been. And his work, he's really just going after it, and he's more successful now than he's ever been. So he's seeing these positive benefits, but it's the bully personality that I'm having to deal with. So he's seeing more positive, the benefits. But,
right.
I mean, it's not a benefit for me.
Right. Well, Allison, real quickly, I've got to say this. You may want to take that to a Catholic or Christian counselor, and I will tell you why. Because, Allison, you said exactly what I was trying to say. He's feeling invincible because he's feeling better. He's working out. He's getting good workouts. He's achieving more at work. He's probably staying up longer and not having to sleep as much. That's all because it's kind of chemically being, taken care of by the testosterone. That doesn't necessarily mean that's a positive thing for him long range. So that's what I want you to kind of look at. And that's why I would just ask you to be open to checking out different forms of natural medicine. Yeah, please do that. Okay.
Thank you so much.
And Allison, listen up to a few more calls coming in have to do with your situation. So you may want to stay listening to the rest of the program.
All right, thank you, Allison, for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're going to move right over to Alan in South Dakota, listening on Sirius XM 130. Alan, you share the Patience Award today because you've been on the line for a while, too, but we really appreciate you holding on there. So how you doing, Alan? Hello, Alan. Are you there? Alan in South Dakota. Well, hold on.
Alan?
We'll put Alan back on hold there for a minute. Let's go to Steve in Moses Lake, Washington. Beautiful part of, Steve, is it considered central or eastern Washington?
Central.
Central, yeah. I've been through Moses. I'm a native of Washington, so it's a beautiful area. Steve, you're on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Thank you for calling.
Well, you're welcome. I just wanted to make a brief comment about the testosterone subject. I received testosterone injections in my 40s, and they did all the things that you mentioned on there. But what I realized was that they caused me to feel much more powerful, much more vigorous, much more capable. And the end result of that is I relied far less on God and far more on me. And that precipitated a huge avalanche of mood and behavioral changes that nobody in my life liked. So I simply stopped it.
Yeah, it sounds like it had the opposite effect, really, of kind of what we're talking about today. At least I think one of God's purposes of allowing men, really all people, but today we're talking about men, to go through this sort of this bumpy area of life when we reach a certain age, so that we don't have that, I'm king of the hill, invincible sort of self-reliance. So, Steve, that's a good point. What else did you have on this topic?
Well, I just wanted to say that as part of my midlife crisis, which I term my faith crisis or crisis of faith, I did not react soon enough, and I lost my marriage, my wife, and my relationship with my oldest son. And the good news is that despair and suicidal sense of everything is gone, what's the point, drove me to the foot of the cross in such a way that when I knelt there, I absolutely had nothing left of my own strength and motivation and drive, and I fully accepted Christ into my life at 63, and I will say that it has been the most wonderful and incredible ride since then. I am now operating in my calling, which is a lay counselor for addiction and faith. And I never imagined my life would ever be good again, and I certainly never imagined that it would be as good as it is.
Well, Debbie may have something here, but Steve, I just want to quickly say thanks for sharing that. You really, in a sense, kind of summed up what I went through a few years ago, and I used to pray before that happened in 2011. I used to have this I used to say this really dangerous prayer. I found out how dangerous it was because God let me go through that. But I used to say, Lord, do whatever you must in order to save me.
Amen.
Think about it. I used to say, because I know myself, I could so easily, walk away from God or, who knows, just not have the kind of relationship with Him that so I used to say, Lord, you do whatever you must in order to save me. Now, I mean, I've still got breath and, I could still make choices for or against God, but I have really come out of that a changed man as well, for the better too, I think, Steve. So, Debbie, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on this.
Yeah, I just want to say, Steve, wow, your story is amazing. And when you said you're a lay counselor, is that for the church or is it privately or what?
Yeah, for the church.
For the church, okay.
I put a lot of energy into helping addicts recognize that they have no chance of recovery without the aid of God in their life.
Wow, that's awesome. Steve, can you do us a favor? Could you email us your information at take2, the number 2 at EWTN.com?
Sure.
That would be great because actually, if you heard Allison when she was calling in, you really can be a peer help to Allison in her situation because you lived through it. See, that's the thing. We need to talk about it. We have to talk about what others have lived through so that we don't have to go through it. I mean, and that's important that we do that as Catholic Christians. And you're doing that so well in your ministry, Steve. And I pray that those relationships that, were somewhat hurt by what the transition, I pray that those are repaired or on the way to healing and things in your ministry just keep blossoming. So Steve, thank you so very, very much for your call.
Well, you're welcome. And I just would like to add that all the fruit produced by my life for 63 years doesn't compare to the fruit since that transformation in the last 1 year. So
Wow.
there's hope.
Wow. Yeah, hope is the key. Absolutely. Thank you, Steve. That was awesome call. Thank you so very, very
God
much.
bless you.
Thank you.
God bless Steve. 1-800-585-9396. Guys, how did you deal, or are you dealing with that midlife, quote-unquote, crisis, passing through maybe a phase where you're looking at your mortality, or you're looking back on life and saying, gee, I didn't achieve that much, even though maybe you did. I think it's human nature for us to not be, Debbie, to think that, we just haven't done all that we should have done. And yet if we just were faithful to God every step of the way, we have.
I just love when I talk to guys that are in their 50s and you always ask them the question, what did you want to be when you grew up? And so many go, well, I wanted to be a rock star, or I wanted to be a, basketball player or baseball player. And I was pretty good at it too. You always hear that. It's kind of funny, but it's a good point. I mean, we're all kind of dealing with that same transition in life.
All right, Danny is up next in Jefferson City, Missouri. Danny, thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie as you're listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Danny.
Good. How are you all?
All right. Better now that you called.
I tend to I take testosterone, but the thing with it is you talk about men of living their life, look later on in life, well, I wish I'd have done this. I look back on my life, I've done everything I wanted to do. I've been a Ranger, U.S. Army Ranger. I've been a police officer, a firefighter. I mean, I've done all these things. I jumped out of planes. I still do. But the thing with it is it's all in what's in your heart and what's in your. And my wife will tell you that just because I take testosterone hasn't changed my fire for God. And
right.
Even my parish will tell you that.
Right. Well, Danny, and to your point, and I think we addressed that with when Allison called in, that, it does see different hormones affect people in different ways. There's some people that it does, change personalities for male and for women when they introduce different hormones into their system. And so in your case, it obviously hasn't had an effect. But like you shared, though, Danny, you've had a pretty invincible life, a pretty invincible career. So you probably... Right. So you probably aren't going to notice too much of a change because you probably have that kind of outward, personality, and that's awesome. That works for you. So, but what's interesting, what you said, Danny, see, you're blessed because you said you're acknowledging everything that you've accomplished and everything you've done in your life. You said, I've done it all. So go ahead.
But that was all to God.
Mm.
God is the one has always been leading me in my path in life. And, it's like this morning. I mean, I ride motorcycles. This morning I took a spill on my motorcycle, hit a patch of ice. I got up, it wasn't no problem.
Was the road okay, Danny, after you did that? Hope the road wasn't hurt.
The road wasn't hurt. My pride was a little bit, but other than that, it wasn't. I look at life that God has blessed me with a lot of things in my life, and has blessed me with an incredible wife, and and my faith in the Lord. And I push this in my parish that men have to stand up to be men, and in our parishes, and I have other men looking to me to lead them. I don't see where. I mean, I think it's within each person. Where are they in their life when they start taking this testosterone? Yes, it does make you feel invincible at times. I mean, I feel like I'm in my 20s, but it's still, how do we direct that energy? A lot of that comes with maturity.
Right.
And, like I said, I've done everything I've ever wanted to do in my life, and I'm still doing more things. And the Lord has lots of plans for me, and I'm just along for the ride.
Well, Danny, this is a personal question. Women dislike it more than men, but do you mind if I ask how old you are?
I'm getting ready to turn 49.
Okay. So you're right in that age where you've done a lot, and I am so blessed to hear you say you've got all so much to look forward to. And Danny, as we let you go, we got a lot of other callers. If you live in Jefferson City, you're just a couple of hours away from St. Louis. And you talked about men being men and stepping up and representing in the faith and, being courageous and so forth. Debbie and I are part of a company that's sponsoring an event in St. Louis on April 23rd. Maybe you've heard about it. But Father Larry Richards, you talk about a man's man. He's going to be one of the speakers. Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, Tim Staples, and others. It's going to be at the Chaffetz Arena. If you, we'd love to have you there. Love to have you, come up and wave and say hi. It's One Faith Experience is the name of the event, and if you just add a .com, you'll find details there. OneFaithExperience.com. Danny, we'd love to have you and a whole bunch of your guy friends come and be part of that event if you are open to it and are available. It's April 23rd. So, Danny, thanks. We got to move along here because, boy, Debbie, I wish we could just pull the plug out on the clock sometimes and just keep talking to our listeners. But, Danny, bless you. Thanks again for making the show so great today. And Sam in Miami, we're going to go to you next, listening on iHeartRadio on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Sam in Miami. How you doing?
Hi, how you guys doing? Thanks again for taking the call, and
Sure.
I also want to say you all are doing some great God's work today on this topic. But my question is, I'm 49 and I'm about in this age group, and I'm at the point now where I'm looking at my mortality. It's like, I don't have much time left. If you said, I think you said, Jerry, if God's willing, you have 20 years left, and I don't know, looking at my dad when my dad died and that kind of stuff, you wonder how much time do I have left? How do you deal with that question of mortality at some point?
Well, I'll tell you, my perspective has changed, Sam. Like I said, I went through that real trial in 2011. It was a dark time. I looked to the future, and there really wasn't much of a future. And in terms of my mortality, I think, well, I probably came face to face with it at that time. But the timing of your call is interesting because I was sharing with a friend just yesterday. I said, my perspective is so different now than it used to be. I said, I love life. I love putting my feet on the floor every day. I can't wait to do what God has, called me to do every day. But I can't wait to die and go to heaven, and that's kind of it's sort of this odd sounding juxtaposition. But my perspective on mortality now, Sam, is that I think it's because of, sort of the newfound relationship and understanding I have of God and who He is. And I mean, this life it can be great. We can live it to the full, as Jesus said in the gospel. But we also know the promise of the Lord that heaven, is going to be so much greater than that. We can't even imagine it. So, Sam, for me anyway, I look so forward to being with the Lord and all of that. But, so I think that, I don't know if that's of any help to you or not. Are you struggling with this?
Well, I do have a close relationship with God, and I've been leaning on Him a lot with praying and trying to just cope with these questions. Because at this point in me and my wife's lives, we're empty nesters, so we've got all this time now. And I think one of your previous callers said, your lives were built around your kids, and same, I can identify with that. And that's ripping and roaring and doing a whole lot of things. And now at this point, it's like, okay, I'm with my wife now. We have all this time, and so we're enjoying it, and we're rediscovering ourselves. But, it's like, well, do I have enough time to do the things I want? And if I'm listening to God, will He give me enough time to do that kind of stuff? And so I guess that's, at this point in my life, that's all. I'm just wondering about the time element, and will He give me enough time to do the things that He needs me to do? And I was just wondering, your perspective on that.
Sure, yeah. And Sam, I think what I could add to that might be of help to you is I have also really developed an ability to be in the present moment. The great spiritual writers have talked about, there's I think it's is it Jean de Caussade or somebody, the sacrament of the present moment, meaning God is present right now. And so I find myself, if I'm waiting in line somewhere, or if I'm, doing something that's, I think, I can't believe I'm here. I'd rather be, I just stop and I think, you know what? God is right here. God is here right now, and He is here with me right now. And so I really have a peace, a contentment, Sam, a contentment in every present moment, so that there isn't necessarily this wondering about, well, what's going to happen. The Bible talks a lot about, not worrying about tomorrow, sufficient for the day or the concerns thereof. So I don't know if that's helpful, but I really try to practice that sense of being content and at peace right in this particular moment. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and that's some of the stuff that I'm trying to get to. I just wanted to get your perspective, because I'm trying to be more present in the moment, as opposed to just constantly looking and trying to look at a schedule and worry about what's coming up. You know what I mean? So and I guess that's part of the parental aspect in dealing and managing schedules and trying to keep the kids on task and that kind of thing. But
right.
I am trying to be more in the present, because it lets you appreciate life a lot more and what's going on around you, and really seeing God in that moment too. So thank you for that. Thank you for that information today. And
you got it,
Sam.
Sam.
That's all I had. So I know got a few more minutes, but thank you.
Have a blessed day, Sam. Thanks for calling. Mary in Iowa, if you can do it in 60 seconds, you're on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Mary, we wanted to get you in there. How you doing?
Oh, hi there. This is a wonderful topic, and thank you so much for addressing it, because what affects one affects all the family. And so the more understanding we can be, the more supportive and aware to recognize symptoms. But I wanted to share a few things. I'm a retired registered nurse, and to explain, as the reproductive hormones decline, the adrenals start taking over. And so we can be more vulnerable to things like fatigue, stress, diet, particularly sugar and high fructose corn syrup, which I consider a modern poison in some cases, depending on the individual. But so that rest, good diet, exercise, and also the phases of the moon, just like how it affects the tides, can, especially on a new and full moon, there can be kind of a transition, and ladies can be more vulnerable, especially, since I've gone through menopause. I recognize it, like, why am I so irritable today? Or, oh, honey, are you okay? And you look kind of worried and tired today. Is there anything I can do, to be? And I just agree so much that our trusting our faith in God, Jesus, I trust in you, and Christ, I know you're counting on me. So one of my
Mary, we got to end the show on that note, Mary. I hate jumping in on a caller like that, but that was just a beautiful little bow and ribbon on top of this broadcast, Mary. Thank you so much. Debbie, we're going to go really, really deep with our listeners tomorrow. So everybody get ready. You ready for this? We want to know.
If you could be a canonized saint, who would it be? If you could be a canonized saint, who would it be? We got ours picked out already. Do you have yours? We want to hear from you. Go ahead, Jerry.
I'll be thinking about that. If there's a saint you love, his or her life in particular, and you could be a canonized saint, who would it be? Maybe yourself. Talk to you tomorrow on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.